one time, and apparently there's professionals out there that have their emails say stuff like that on it, and it's some widespread thing. So maybe that's them just expanding it into a voicemail. I don't know.
Yeah, very interesting. Huh.
Isn't
Um,
that the most hilarious thing you've ever heard?
yeah, it's definitely not
Yes.
something that I would say. All right, you guys, it is 9 a.m. It's Tuesday. Again, we are starting off the year, and today we actually have Randy, our broker, speaking today, and he's going to be talking to us about taxes, accounting, and then any broker questions that you guys might have for him. The one thing that I'm going to make sure that you guys know at the February 10th date that we have sent out, make sure that you guys are RSVPing in Facebook if you are going to that event or not. It's just going to help Amy with the planning process of it. So make sure you go in there, respond to the Facebook event. If you haven't already and you don't know where that is, it's in the NRG Facebook Connect group. If you need help with getting in that group, just reach out to me or one of the admin, and we can definitely help you get in there. But that is where everything is. That is where we put updates. So definitely watch that group. Let's see. It looks like Randy is trying to connect to audio. We've got a few more people coming in here. Let's see. Amy, could I have you do me a favor and maybe try Randy and see where he's at?
Yep, I'll do that.
Okay, thank you. While we're waiting for him to pop on, is there anybody who has any buyer or seller needs that they want to go over in this new year? All right. Anybody got any new listings coming up that they want to talk about? Okay. Let's see here. Does anybody need any help with anything while we're asking that to see before he gets on here?
The meeting you had on Thursday was awesome. I appreciate it. I did try to go to watch the video or kind of parts of it and stuff. And it asked me to request, and I did. I thought I tried to request. I did. I was gonna call you and stuff, but I don't know if you got that request to watch that video.
I did get that, Dennis. I did respond and gave you permission to view it.
I guess
So
I'll
you
try it
should,
again. I
yep,
didn't see any.
and if you don't see it, just let me know and I can definitely do it again.
But yeah, I thought I'd use this as a double plug to let other people know that you had a great meeting. So yeah.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. We had a great lofty meeting again. We scratched the surface. We're going to be continuing to have more training on that, so definitely watch for that. But yes, good tools and just networking together, I think, is amazing. So, perfect. All right, Randy. I think I've seen you on here. There you are. I'm gonna let you take the floor. We had told everybody about the February 10th event coming up to make sure they RSVP and check out that NRG Connect page. So I'm going to hand the floor over to you. You are muted, Randy, if you can unmute.
Okay, normally I got a stand for this phone, but I think I got it somewhere where we were taking photos and I use it as a tripod.
Oh.
But either way. So I got to use my phone and then I use my computer to watch this. It's kind of the way I dial in. I don't know who's an S corporation already, but it's the beginning of the year, and so if anybody is going to join as an S corporation, now's the time before you start getting paychecks. I know anybody that was on our top 20 list should be on there because Well, because the tax savings start after you're making about $25,000 or $30,000. I guess I'll open this up for questions in a bit, but I wanted to make sure everybody knows how they can sign up first of all. And maybe I could share my other screen, and then I can go to a few. I could go to some locations. Maybe we could just copy and paste some of these also. But the first thing somebody has to do, I'll tell you about the advantages of them. But you see, there's a reason that the savings start at like $25,000 or $30,000 because you have to have an accountant do your business taxes at that point. So there's still some costs and things involved in that. But I don't know if anybody's ever looked up before in the past how to set up a name of a company. You can always have your own name as a sole proprietor. And, I guess it's kind of the first step to setting up a corporation because, you can just get paid as a name and not use you legally got to register the name. But there's something called assume names here. And you go do this on the Secretary of State's website in Minnesota or whatever state you're in. And, legally, the Department of Commerce allows you to get paid as a corporation as long as you're the only owner. And the only consideration is if your spouse is the other owner. So you can't be partners of a real estate little brokerage or your own kind of team. You can't have partnerships and then get paid as the partner and split up your money. It just doesn't. The Department of Commerce wants to see who's getting paid. So the broker is required to pay each real estate agent or this real estate agent company. But if anybody's ever gone to this website here, this is where you find out if names are available. And I don't want to see the PDFs. There's a electronic search in here somewhere. And I could type a couple names in here. Business filings, so search business filings. I have an account, but on this page, search business filings. Let's see. I suppose I can post this. Copy. This is where you can type in any name and see if it's available. I would say nobody should get hung up on the name, right? I watch companies think they come up with this brilliant company name, and that's not what makes people get business. It's doing the work. And so one of the easiest things to do will be like a long time ago. You guys know my name's changed from Randy to Carrie over a decade, but back a long time ago when I first got in business, here's some guy named Randy Berger. That's not me, but I don't use that name anymore. But I started with Randy Berg Inc. or Randy Berg Limited. It's the easiest thing because usually your name's going to be available, and usually you don't have several words, but you can kind of play around in there and just find something because then you incorporate that name. So this would be available. I could make it like Inc. or LTD or whatever is available. The first step is to get the name and set yourself up as an LLC or an S Corp is the next step, but with the state of Minnesota. So you can set yourself up as an LLC and pay a fee. And then the S corporation tax status is like a nomination that your tax advisor will do when they file your return. So you could be an LLC and you could choose to file as an S Corp. I don't know if everybody's on mute, but I will allow for anybody to pop up a question because I'm kind of fast tracking right into the.
Randy, I'm going to stop you for a second just because I want to kind of back up a little bit. Can you maybe tell us what is the advantages of maybe doing an LLC, and then what's the advantages of doing an S Corp and why we do change? Because I'm going to say, I bet you a lot of the agents on here are an LLC.
Okay, so basically an LLC is a legal shield, right? Kind of protects you when you're operating out there doing business. But the LLC itself doesn't give you the real tax advantages that the S corporation does. And so I used to have a PDF, but wherever every staff has changed them every year and stored them, I couldn't find them yet. So I will try to look up, I might find something here before we're off the phone. But when you are so you can set yourself up as a corporation or an LLC, and they're really the same thing. They're just two type of identities that the state recognizes and the IRS recognizes as a legal entity. So as long as you're the owner of that legal entity, then the state of Minnesota allows you real estate commissions to get paid for. The advantage is that you can basically avoid paying taxes on 15% of your income. And so if your income is 50,000, now you're starting to see substantial numbers. $7,500 is 15% of $50,000. So you're either going to hand that to the government or you're going to shelter yourself this way and avoid paying it. The easiest thing for me to do is have a round number of $100,000 because it's easy numbers to work with. So if you're talking 15,000 of $100,000, that's $15,000. And the way that it's avoided is because if you're self-employed or if you're running as an LLC, at the end of the year on your tax return, you're going to pay self-employment tax. I think it's 7.5%. I'm going to get the breakdown here from the IRS of exactly how it breaks down, but it's roughly a total of 15 or 15.4%. And so the way that this is done is well, first of all, as a business, it helps you organize all your expenses, right? I mean, I don't know how often you guys you're running around and paying something, all of a sudden it's your personal card, and then you're supposed to remember to save a receipt, and then possibly it gets put onto your Schedule C, right? Part of your tax return. You have to remember what you spent, and maybe sometimes you just come up with a number because you don't have the receipts to back it up, and you're supposed to, but the S Corp or the corporation requires you to have a separate checking account. So now you got one account. So even if people aren't set up as a corporation, I always tell them, use one bank account for your business and one bank account for your corporation so that you actually don't have to, at the end of the year, you can pull 12 bank statements and have all your information there. But the advantage of the S corporation is far better than just saving your receipts, because you have to set up, there's something that people call like a 60-40 rule, but there's not really a rule in stone. We've got a tax guy who has some people paying themselves $30,000 in salary because they say if they hired somebody, they could pay $30,000 to do that job. But their corporation's successful enough that they're pulling out $400,000 a year of dividends. And so, $400,000 a year, they just save $60,000 that they keep in their pocket instead of pay the IRS. So it's just more easy to deal with, 100,000, which is 15 to 20 real estate transactions in a year, or maybe a couple of really good ones, right? So at 100,000, you could set yourself up a few ways. You have to have a payroll, and the payroll is pretty nice. There's a couple of places that you could do it. QuickBooks allows it, but they require monthly payroll. And you could just call up ADP. They offer monthly, quarterly, and annual. You're really required to just have one check a year. The whole basis to protect it, if you're audited, is kind of like at least quarterly, where you have a steady payroll for your job. And then these dividends are just extra cash coming in, and they're not really, it's bonus money from the company. It's dividends, right? So you could pay yourself once a year through like ADP payroll. I guess if anybody's going to look for payroll, you could Google payroll companies. But quarterly, they'd probably charge $80 a quarter. And the reason I'm telling you that is because when you start adding up the cost of paying for some payroll and then paying for a tax return at the end of the year, that's like another $500-600. So it takes time to make money to break even. So if you're only talking about $20,000 a year, I'd say it's a good time to start planning and getting set up with the S corporation. But if that's all you're ever going to pull in from a certain industry, then it doesn't make any sense. It'll be a wash by the time you pay the fees to do it. So I would say, 20,000 and up would be the number to go ahead and start incorporating. It's really easy to do. So, like I said, if you go on the state of Minnesota's website, find a name and then pay for the corporation, that's the first step. I could get deeper into this in a moment. I guess if people ask the questions, but then you'll go to the IRS and register an EIN. So if you just type or Google register an EIN at the IRS, it's going to send you to the right link. So I would I will tell everybody exactly what websites to go if you guys ask in a few minutes. I don't know if Max Pinto's on the phone, but I was going to ask him if he wanted to join in because he does taxes for people. But I have a handful of accountants that I just refer people to. A few years ago, we were trying to do this for people and set them up and handle the books because we thought that agents might be interested but not follow through. And then the fact that we started charging a fee and stuff, I just said, I don't need to be involved in this. I'd rather refer you guys somewhere, pick your own accountant. I taught Neil Lawson how to do it a few years back. He went to an old accounting firm that I used to use. But I've got kind of this thing down to where your tax return should only run you about 300, 350 and have a CPA stamp on it. And then you got to have somebody run a payroll for you. So ADP payroll can do that. Let's see. So the benefits, 7.65% is, your FICA. And then there's 6.2% for Social Security tax, 1.45% Medicare. So when you have an employer, the employer pays taxes for you. And basically that's what you're setting up. You set yourself up to be employed by yourself for whatever amount you decide. So let's just say if so many realtor agents might make $24,000 a year, right? And so that's not really enough to have a successful, I guess, sustain a family and things like that. But you could pay yourself $24,000 a year and say you're making another $10,000 a month. That's what you'd pay out in the dividends, and you'd save $1,500 on every $10,000. So let's see if I can find any charts. A lot of people would ask, if you Google this, you might find something called like a 60-40 rule. And what that is it's just somebody's kind of perception. Some accountant might have said this on how much you should decide, okay, what's reasonable for a salary or what's reasonable to take away in these dividends. Says a lot of people might say, well, it's a loophole. Well, yeah, it's taking advantage of tax law. So but some people might say, well, you can't pay yourself $25,000 and take $300,000 in dividends. It's just not fair. Well, that's totally up for debate or question, because who's to determine what's fair, right? And so that's why this one company that these guys created, they know that they can hire somebody out for the $35,000, $45,000 to do their job. And it's just such a successful company that their $400,000 dividends, they can justify it if they were sitting in an audit. So it's kind of up to you. A lot of people think maybe half and half is the secret, so that if you're sitting in an audit, that there's nothing that they can argue with you. It's kind of what's fair. It just depends on your industry. I'd say, if you had an assistant in real estate that was out showing houses for you full time, you might say, well, that's just worth, opening a door and closing a door. I've got a whole team that manages the PAs and, does kind of the legal work behind the PA. And so, with that rationalization, you could pay them, $40,000 and be pocketing $150,000. They're driving around opening doors, right? It's just kind of one of those things that you have to decide. Personally, I went several years of paying like $35,000 and walking away with 150 additional in dividends. So I don't think that that's out of line. I pay a higher salary now, and the remainder is dividends. So in Minnesota, 4 years ago, there's an additional law that was written into the tax code, and it's a benefit. So normally what you would do is, if you had, say, the $100,000 and then you have your state and federal tax to pay, and you already got out of $15,000 because of being set up this way, paying through dividends. But on your wages, you still have the taxes due to the state. The state of Minnesota allowed the S corporation now for the last 4 years to write that check, and then the S corporation can deduct it again. where normally you would receive it and pay taxes as the individual receiving it and then write the check yourself to the state. So there's more stuff there. I'm not an accountant, but I know enough about this stuff because I've been doing it for 20 years that I can kind of tell you that you should call one, if you're starting to have some success and some cash coming in to take advantage of the laws out there.
So what if you start at as an LLC? Can you switch over to an S corp, or would you have to start something new?
Yeah, so you can switch over. So it's the S corporation is like a taxation method, right? So right now it's the beginning of the year. You should file last year probably as well. If you haven't filed, you could possibly convert, but they might have to convert you during the year so that at the end of the year you can file. So if you're an LLC, you'll probably make this the last year that you file as an LLC unless you have partners. But now, like if your partner or somebody you're married to, you can still have it. So you could switch that over to S corporation taxation status. And then you pick an accountant that can set you up either with the payroll every quarter. It doesn't have to be perfect at first. Like you could say, look, I've only got $7,000 in there. How want I pay myself to this quarter? Or the next quarter, maybe you can only pay 1,500 or 3,500. But as long as there's a payroll, that's kind of for the office day-to-day tasks. And then, the rest of it's based on the success of the business. So you can switch it over anytime in the calendar year. I'm pretty sure it should be the beginning of the year. You should call your accountant then.
Thank
If
you.
anybody doesn't have an accountant, I get a handful of calls this time of year asking for somebody. My brother owns an accounting firm, but I don't use them. I used to, and then he sold his practice to a guy, and he was successful down in the North Loop. These guys started charging $650 for a return. And when I took over all these homeowners associations, we found a homeowner management CPA office called CPA Mullen, and they were charging $350 a return. So I just had to tell my brother to take a hike. He didn't have much control over it because he had partners, so it doesn't matter. But now I actually have a CPA firm to refer people to if you want.
Randy, can I just ask, because I'm just gonna put this out there, and I know a lot of people on the call are just, they're right here. The average real estate agent in 2023 did 2 transactions. So how we think about this is like, what would your advice be to that person who is either just individually, doing their taxes, or maybe on the fence about setting up an LLC? Let's just talk about maybe like the average. What would you recommend at that starting point?
Well, okay, so the average number comes from the National Association, maybe, or whatever data's out there. And just to remind you guys that, the average person probably on the call does more than that, because the average from that data is everybody in the country with a license that might have gotten a license in California due to their husband's $8 million transaction and will never do it again. So the data is a little off. I think we're closer to 4 something. But you could do the math because, if you're going to pay right now, you don't have to pay for a tax return. You have to pay for your personal tax return. You can probably do that for $300 or do it on, what do you call it, like TurboTax or something. But an S corporation should be done by a business tax person, and let's just call it $350. So right now you have $350 to spend that you didn't spend before. And I would say that the payroll piece of it, so you have to have both to make this work. Like if you called ADP payroll and said, I just need a quarterly check, I'll tell you what the check's going to be at the end of each quarter. And then you can probably get that for about $100 a month or $100 a quarter. And so that's $400. So this is how I do the math, right? You're $750 into it, and you have to pay yourself a salary for X amount. So if you're already paying yourself a salary for $12,000, $1,000 a month, or $3,000 a quarter, or $2,500 a quarter, so $10,000, and then you can start saving after that. And so if every $1,000 is $150, you kind of got to trickle up to break even, right? So I'd say if you have $750 expenses, your first $5,000, you're not saving any money. And let's just say you're at 20,000. So if you paid yourself 10 and then you got another 10, well, that's only $1,500. So to jump through a bunch of hoops to save 500 at the end of the year, right? That sounds like a hassle. And so that's why I say once you hit about 25 and 30,000, it's time to start looking at it. Because now you can save a couple thousand and another $1,500 for every additional $10,000. So, if you know that you're projected up and you're already at like 25, 30, it starts to make sense. And then, you can take any other business income. If, I don't know if you have a mortgage license, or not many mortgage companies pay 1099. They're mostly W-2, but any other type of incomes you can run through the same corporation. So it doesn't just have to be for real estate. I've separated mine out, but I have, for example, one corporation that gets, I guess, income from 3 companies. And so, that way it builds up enough to make it a value. You don't need one corporation for every business idea you have. You can roll with that one entity the rest of your time and just start funneling any income through there. I guess if an employer wants to pay W-2, then that's the way that's going to work. You can't funnel that in there. That's your personal employment income. But if you have any other avenues where you're getting, maybe you manage a property for somebody and there's 125 a month that you start to throw in there. You just need to add up the numbers. Yeah, ADP payroll all pop. Oh, here, S Corp payroll popped right up. And then even this thing about the 60/40 rules right on their website talks about being reasonable. How much is a reasonable salary versus what you pull out in dividends? So this isn't just new information, but it's information I know that I wanted to pass along. Let's see, I'll pop that in the chat box too, if I can figure it out.
So what would you file as if there's a group of 2 or more?
Well, then you either have an LLC or partnership, but you're not going to get to take advantage of the tax benefits. That's just an organizational way for people to say, hey, we all own this. S corporation rule with Minnesota, if they pay you as a realtor, is, well, any company. If you're going to be licensed and then you want to get paid under a company, you have to be the only owner unless the other owner is your spouse. So if you guys have a team of people, it's recommended that your team, or, well, we can't pay a team, but if you somehow pool all the funds into like a partnership or an LLC for any type of business, that can pay your S corporation at the end of the day. So like, that's a good example. Joe, Brian, and I have a corporation. It's an LLC. And so the LLC is owned by each of our private S corporations. And so the S corporation walks away with the income. And then I take advantage of the tax law before I pay myself. That's kind of a hierarchy of extra companies, but that's why I roll with my one company by myself, and it's RBC Financial, because Berg, Carey, Randy, right? It's nothing creative. And whenever I do anything now with somebody that I know I'm going to get 1099 income, that's the company that gets the money. And then on my end, I can control how I want to handle my taxes, right?
So the corporation gets the bulk of the money, it gets then sent, you pay the LLC and then you file the taxes. Is that what you're saying?
If you have a corporation owned by several people,
Yeah, I don't yet. I'm just asking, is that how I form it?
no. So are you talking about forming something for you for real estate?
Well, like you were saying, if you, so there'd be other places that send money or pay us, so that's where I'm thinking, the corporation, and then how does the corporation pay the S corp then?
Yeah, so if a corporation is going to pay out dividends to a bunch of owners, and that owner has an S corp, then they just have the corporation pay that S corp. So S corporations are the entities that you can take advantage of the tax.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay,
And
thanks.
so, yeah. But now, right, that doesn't apply. You can't do that in real estate. So as a broker, I need to pay the realtor. I can't pay an entity owned by multiple people.
Okay,
Team
so
Weingarten
that would
tried to-
still then be covered with the S corp then, because you could pay the S corp, correct?
Yeah, so that gets a little weird when two guys own a partnership. It's like we got to pay each S corp, and then you got to put the money back in the partnership if you want to split together, and then pay yourselves back out, because that's the only way to funnel it, you know,
Yep.
in and out. But the best thing is that every individual just has their own corporation, and then the broker makes the splits, however you tell us.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's an extra step for us, but I mean, if we're willing to do it, I mean, we're all set up on ACH nowadays, so it's pretty easy.
I
Does
will just
anybody-
make the statement that it is very easy to get set up with the Department of Commerce and get that EIN number from the IRS. I did one the other day. I mean, I've done this several different times, but it literally takes like 10 minutes to do it. And you don't need to pay a lawyer to take care of it. You can just go in and do it online. So it is pretty easy.
Did you say it's easy to get the EIN number? I think I had to have an accountant get mine for me.
No, I got an EIN number the other day. Very easy. You just type in, IRS EIN number, and literally I got one. I filled it out 2 minutes later. I got my EIN number. So if anybody needs any help with that too, you can always reach out. But it is very easy to do.
And you'll need
I
the
will-
Minnesota state number as well. It's similar to the EIN.
Yeah, so you get your state number, and then you can file for your federal number. I'm gonna
Yep.
do a quick show. So share again. So you go Secretary of State and find a name that exists. So this name exists, and then I go in here. Business filings online. So you go in here, you set up an account, then you look up a business name, and if it exists, you go down here and you buy it. And so the easiest thing to do is get the name secured and then say you got two options. So in Minnesota, you can have your LLC, a domestic limited liability company, or you could set up a corporation. So it's really hard. You got to Google the differences between both. There really isn't much difference between the two. The difference is when it comes down to how you want to be taxed. You can either one can be taxed as a corporation, right? They're both companies, and then or be taxed as an S corporation. So that's actually that's part of this process too. So once you click, you're going to pay $155 to get an LLC, and then you reserve your name. So after you have that, this process is going to set you up to get your Minnesota's tax ID. It might be on a separate page actually. So this will spit out some corporate papers. I got a copy of them because I just set another one up the other day. But it's like a one-page thing that says you registered this day. Here's your name. It's legal in the state of Minnesota. That's your certificate of organization. And then let's just say that we go somewhere else for a Minnesota state tax ID. I mean, all this information is just here. Apply for Minnesota EIN. Now be careful because these government websites will try to get like $140 to do it for you. A tax accountant can do it for you because they know how, but it's just too easy. So here, mn.gov, make sure you're on a Minnesota website and you can register for your Minnesota tax ID here. And then once you have that, IRS EIN. Here's
Randy, I'm
apply
going to use
for-
that as an example right here. If you scroll up on your screen, make sure that you are going underneath the IRS, because on that Google page, there was like, I don't know, 5 other ones above that.
sponsored.
Yes,
Sponsored.
don't do
Sponsored.
that. IRS.
So right down here on an IRS website directly. Now you need to upload that certificate from the state of Minnesota and probably know your Minnesota tax ID. And then, I mean, here's how to do it, but I'm sure there's a link to just do it. So, it's that simple. You know, let's see, who did I file for the other day? Oh, so then an example would be every company that I manage here, I got a file that I hold for them called corporate docs. This new one came from another management company, so it's somewhere in here. But here's another one. So governing documents. Some people call them corporate docs, governing docs. If I go here, I just know where all my stuff is for NRG. So National Realty Guild corporate filings. So here's all my stuff. Articles are from back to 2002 or 3 in here. So, you know, here's the articles of incorporation look like. Once you have this, you can move to the state website. And then I got like our EIN in here.
I will
EIN.
say too, Randy, once you get all of these documents together, you have to take all of these into your bank, your credit union, whatever you use, your financial institution. You have to provide all of these to them to get an account set up. So you do need to have these first.
Yep. So they take all these documents and walk into a bank and maybe it's not sharing anymore. So I just highlighted on the other screen my employer ID for NRG, I think.
Yep, we can see it.
Yeah. I don't know what this is. I have to look. I got so many documents in here now. That might be for a different company. But yeah, so organize them all in a folder and then you can set up your bank account. And after you get your bank account, you could go to ADP payroll and tell them you need payroll services. Some accountants do it for you. Like I said, if you can find an accountant that'll write you one check at the end of the year, it's all you need to do to qualify. Separate the money, you know. And then the idea is every quarter you give yourself. So if you got an extra 10 grand in the account, write yourself 8, keep 2 for operating, and you'll save 15% on that $8,000. I guess we'll be around for additional questions if anybody has any, and then your accountant can get into more detail on setting you up. And I don't know if I wrote CPA Mullen, but if anybody's looking for anybody to help them with taxes, I referred these guys to people ever since I started using them because they're reasonable. They're over in St. Louis Park. My guy, Kim, that I've been using, my HOAs that I manage go directly through Michael, the CPA, but then Kim is certified and he does the personal and the business returns. I think half the time he's in Florida, but I just email him what I need and he gets it done. And then there's a CPA stamp on your return too, which I believe I've heard reduces any helps reduce the probability of being audited, but who knows? Kim. That guy's name's Kim Beauchamp. I think anybody could Google him if you wanted. And if anybody has complicated books, I have another woman that's less expensive that can sort out books. So typically, like the way I run is I have a payroll and then I have myself and Francis kind of organize the books. And I have Daniela goes in every month or quarter and double checks I work. And then at the end of the year, we hand off the reports to Kim, who files the return, and then the CPA stamps on the return. Hopefully this was good information. Does anybody have any other stuff to chat about?
Randy, what I think we're gonna do is if anybody has any questions in reference to business, tax, accounting, I'd like them to ask now, and then we're gonna move into probably the last 15 minutes of broker questions.
Cool.
So if anybody has any tax, accounting, any kind of questions, please ask them now.
Wondering if anyone has an Excel spreadsheet that they'd be willing to share that they use for logging their expenses rather than QuickBooks.
Marie, are you a tech savvy person? Do you use apps or do you anything on your phone?
Yeah, I could, but I haven't.
Okay. I will send you over an app that I use that's on my phone. And it tracks all of my expenses. Like I can click a button that says, this is a write-off, and it will track it all for you.
Okay, so like, what about your MLS dues and your Supra and all that stuff? You put it through that app?
Yep. So basically what you have to do on this app is you have to link your bank account, and I have separate bank accounts set up for all of my businesses. And so I link it in, and then as they come through, I can click, is this a write-off? Is it not? And then I can itemize where it needs to go. And then it syncs up with my QuickBooks because I use QuickBooks. So it just syncs it right in there, and then I don't have to worry about it.
Is it
Hey,
a
Randy, you're still sharing your screen.
Okay.
is it a paid app?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Is it a paid app?
There it is. Yes. Yep. I do. I was just trying to see it. I will share it with you guys once I get out of, let me pull it up here. It is a paid app. I don't pay that much for it. Again, it's something that I utilize every day. So to me, it's worth it. Let me get in here and pull it up for you. You guys go ahead with any other questions and I'll get that information.
I've got a minutia question regarding the mail at the office. I had sent letters out, and when I was at the office the other day, we hadn't received. I was checking to see if everybody got them, and they didn't because they were not sent from some other broker or something. I'd like Randy to clarify what the office situation is regarding mail, because
Well, we receive mail, but we don't let agents just send out mail on our company's account. But I'm pretty sure we sent out your letters or they were emailed or something like that.
well,
And when we receive mail for agents, we divide it up and we forward a copy of the mail.
it wasn't forwarded. And they said that a week and a half ago, you told office centers not to give them to Francis to send out anymore.
I don't understand what you're saying here. Why would office centers give mail to Francis to send out? I don't understand.
Well, my understanding is if I get a letter from someone that's sent to 5200 Wilson Road, the receptionist does not email it to Francis to email it to us. Their policy is to open it, scan it to Francis, and then shred the document.
That's what we do. And then Francis forwards the mail to you.
Okay, well, I sent one to the MedPro group that we have established to work with doctors. And we've been meeting and we've had a little certification program, and we're developing this with 1,000 leads. I sent them each a roster in the mail and asked them if they got their rosters on our Thursday morning call. None of
So
them
you
did.
sent mail out through our office?
Yes, I sent mail from my home with the roster in it. I sent an envelope with Grace Fix's name and National Realty Guild at the office address. It went to office centers in Edina. Office centers got it on January 2nd. Office centers said that you had told them not to send them to Francis anymore.
Well, there's a misunderstanding there. I don't even know why you would send all our agents mail at the office. Just email them.
Because for one, like Marie's computer was down, another girl's computer was down, another one couldn't even find her computer. And I said, I'll just mail them to you.
Yeah, it sounds kind of like a backwards way to mail out a roster of people that we already work with.
Well, it doesn't matter, Randy, what was in the envelope. It matters that the front desk was not willing to, they sent it to Francis. Francis said, we are not sending those things. We're not emailing those out.
Well, we can email them out.
Well,
I
what
don't know
is
why
it?
you couldn't email them out, but we'll email them to the same agent. I mean,
What-
we're all confused. I was driving around on a trip and all of a sudden an agent here has done something that's never happened in our history. You mailed a bunch of our agents through the office. We'll figure it out. Just give me a buzz later or something.
On that same topic, I mail out calendars every year, and every year I get a return to sender no longer at this address. And I'm
Yeah.
wondering if I will get record of that.
Yeah, every time a mail comes back, we photocopy it and send it to the agent.
Okay.
I think on this thing that was done, everybody was confused. So there's a copy of we took a copy of what you sent, Lynn, and somewhere in our email it's there. And I said we don't let agents do mailers out of our office with our postage and our envelopes and our paper. But
Yeah,
if
there is it is a confusion because I mailed it from my home. I didn't go to office centers and say, mail this out to people. That was not what I did. But office centers does not have a clear understanding on that. And my concern is if we are doing business and using that as our corporate world headquarters, and I'm getting mail there and they're not going to send it over to me, I've got a problem with that. That's a big deal killer. That's ridiculous. I've lost sleep
well, that's
over.
not the case. So
Yeah, but
Yeah,
could you
I've
Well,
never
the-
not gotten the mail that's been sent there. I even had a W-2 go there and I for some reason got it mailed sent to me. I didn't even know about it. So any mail that they have come in, they forward to our email, but like he said, we're just not sending mail out from that location. We need to send it from our personal location. We can have the return address as the Edina location, but anything that comes back returned will get scanned in and emailed to you. You won't get a paper copy.
Amy, I never got the letter from Lynn. Lynn sent it to the Edina office to me, and I never received anything.
here, I'll find it and forward you a copy. I don't remember what day that was,
I
but it was
think
about 2 weeks ago.
It
what
was
we want to
January
do to
2nd.
keep this on track, and I hate to apologize, but I really want to keep this on track. Lynn and everybody there, we will reach out to you after the call and we will get this squared away. I just want to make sure we're bringing as much valuable content because this is valuable time.
Right.
But we will address this after the call. Okay.
Great, I'd appreciate that. And the date, Randy, was January 2nd, that
Okay.
the office centers sent that on to Francis.
I found it.
There is
Perfect.
a misunderstanding with office centers. They need to be corrected on what your instructions were. Because that there's a fuzziness there. I wasn't asking for them to mail letters out for me.
Yeah, I understand. We established everything already. I got it.
Good, thank you. Sorry to take so much time on that, but it really bothered me. I'm an old lady.
Let's see. I'll figure it out.
Okay.
I got everybody's email here, so.
All right, we're gonna put that aside, Randy. I want your attention if there's other broker questions. Does anybody else have any other broker questions for Randy at this moment?
So I did some transaction coordinating when I was at Bridge, and those same agents are still wanting me to do their transaction coordinating, and I'm wondering if that's okay and if there's anything special I need to do to keep doing that.
You know, we've done this. This has been done for years. And now the Department of Commerce is starting to track down people that are not working or not licensed. So you're licensed, that's one thing. And so whose paperwork is that agent's? Do you have a login to their account?
Yes.
Yeah, I'd say as far as I know, it's fine to do transaction coordination for another agent, but not with NRG forms because that imply that this brokerage would be responsible for the transaction.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks.
You're
Marie,
welcome.
do you have a separate company set up for that?
No.
I would highly recommend that you do that just because of your liability as a realtor under NRG. So you're going to want to set up a separate company to make sure that that liability is taken off of you and Randy here.
Okay.
Okay, so let me know if you have any other questions. I've set up transaction coordinating companies and worked with that. So yeah, you want to make sure you have that separated out.
Okay.
How do you get paid? Do you get a percentage of the commission or do they just pay you a cash option?
Yeah, they've just written me a check.
Okay. So then it shouldn't come back on NRG, right? Because it's still
Right.
all under that other company.
This gets into a sticky situation because of the fact that she is a realtor. She is getting paid. Yes, it's part of it. Is it coming from the title company, Marie, and they're just sending you a
No, it's
check
coming from the agent.
directly from the agent? Okay. Just be very careful is what I'm going to tell you.
Okay, I'll give you a call.
Yes.
Thanks.
Yep.
So I do have a question, Randy. I'm planning on pursuing to get the license from Florida state. Would you
Yep.
hold it for me, or how does that work?
Right now, I don't have a broker down there to hold it.
So what happens if I take a license from here?
Well, if you go to Florida and get a separate license in Florida, then you need to have a Florida broker
So I need to work with another broker?
in Florida.
Okay, so then I'll have two brokerages, one in Florida and one in Minnesota.
Yeah, and so the only other thing like these brands, Keller Williams and stuff, but then you're gonna get stuck into paying $100 a month and having a 70-30 split and things like that. And so you might be able to find a brokerage like ours unless anybody knows of a broker down there.
Yeah,
We
it's
do know of a couple brokers from doing our work, depending on where you're gonna go, but it's a huge state. So I'd say there's kind of like over half a dozen regions down there. You're not just gonna find one broker for Florida.
Okay. So
Right.
if somebody knows any broker with like NRG, please let me know. Or Randy, I will be in touch with you after.
Yeah, and then it's gonna depend on where in Florida because it's huge.
Yeah, it's Tampa, Fort Myers area.
Okay, yeah, so Tampa's separate than Fort Myers. It's two different MLSs.
Oh,
But when you hone in on that, I think we'll worry about it.
okay, sure.
Randy, what happened to Schneider? I thought he opened Tamiami.
Well, he did, but the guy can't focus, so it's just I don't see him as a good fit.
Okay, is he still on board and is he still trying to open other states?
I'd say no.
Okay, I just was curious because I'm wanting to do that. I wanted to do it this year, but my husband died, so I'm putting it off till next year to try to get going and Collier down there.
Then he was involved in the storm in Naples, so it rerouted him. He's just not able to follow through or focus, so
Okay, thanks.
I don't see it as like I can't confide in him,
So was he a broker or an agent?
He was a broker for a half a year and he didn't perform and I think he just thinks that having a license makes people money automatically or something.
Mm-hmm.
So I just don't see him as a good fit for us.
We got a
Unless he
question
kind
in
of
the
pulls it
chat,
together. What's that?
saying, I thought you could only hold your broker or your license with one broker. Does that not apply from state to state?
That's right. It does not apply from state to state.
Any other questions for Randy? Brokerage questions, legal questions, anything along those lines?
Somebody asked me what's going to happen to the Association of Realtors. I have no clue.
Randy, I've got a question about Lofty. I had all those entries in and they made them go public and I had to get them back and I did not want to use them anymore. I sent them a notice at the end of the year saying that the broker was no longer going to support it, like the letter that we got. We never had a follow-up until Jill said the other day that, they were going to start instructions on Lofty. And I called her and I said, well, what's going on? She said, no, we still have Lofty, but you got to pay for it now. And so Francis said that it was grandfathered in free, and then you interacted within 3 minutes and said, no, everybody's paying now. I never got a notice of that. And I took all my entries out, exported everything out, got it all out, and sent them a notice. And I'm still getting stuff from Lofty. I'm not going to pay for Lofty. I personally don't like it.
Well, okay, so it's one of the best sources out there, and I got it down to about $30 per user versus 150 or 200. If it's not for you, it's not for you. So, if you make sure all your data's out of there, I will just make sure your account's off, and then you won't receive anything.
Okay, I'd appreciate that because my experience was not good. I put in, and I'm telling you, Chime did too. They did an excellent job of doing custom fields for those 2,255 entries I put in. It was a huge project. And then for another agent to talk them into letting them go public so that she could get those from me. I paid for them and I got them back a day later, but I never trusted them after that. So I want to use a different system. But on that, you had made a comment that there was something regarding a platform for a presence yet with a website. And I don't know any information about that. I've called Jeremy several times. He doesn't
I
call
think if
back.
you're not going to use Lofty, then you won't get a website from them.
No, we got a guy working on just making set up so somebody can have like a page with their picture and a phone number, just like on our main company's back profile. You just take that link and then like you could go get lincondos.com and forward it so you don't have to create a full website, but it's not a functional CRM website. And
No,
they're not ready yet. I have a sample here that the guy.
How do I know when they are ready? Because I would like to do that. I spent $1,500 last year getting 3 books published and getting a whole program, where they do a lot of things. And I've got my lincondos.nationalrealtyguild.com all over my books, all over my ebooks, all over all the Instagram and what else, all the stuff that we put together. And I don't want to lose that. I'm not sure if I'm not with Lofty, do I lose that then? Or can I still keep that website?
Well, I don't know. I mean, you should have your own private domain. That's something that you must not have paid for. That somehow got created like as a user of Lofty. I don't know if GoDaddy allows people to make subdomains like that just out of the blue, but it's not anything that we've ever established to manage. It sounds like, yeah, that's just a page for Lofty that still exists. So,
Lynn, I'm just gonna say this, whatever you have in Lofty, and you opt out of Lofty, is gonna be lost. So, and unless you have that domain paid for somewhere else, but yeah, whatever is in Lofty, if you opt out of it, it's gone.
yeah, Lofty holds the domain National Realty Guild so that we can have our CRM in there. So that was just your private page on one of our websites.
I think what people usually do is set up their own, like Lynn, if you're going to write books and stuff, you'd set up a
domain at GoDaddy.
Independent, a set up, and then just forward that domain while you're with NRG. And then if you don't like Lofty, you still have your URL that's referenced. So yeah, I wouldn't use a company's URL for your personal stuff.
So when I tell people how to brand, I've always said, look, go get your own phone number and your own email and your own domains because you control them and you can go anywhere in the world with it without having to ask other people to let them go. And so the example is my Randy at randyberg.com I've had for 20 years. If anything changes in my life, I have my own personal email and domain. So if lincondos.com is available or something, you got a Gmail address. I see that, which, works. but it's, it's Gmail owns it. You don't. But I mean, you'll probably never lose it. Or if Gmail decides to start charging people in the future, you know what I mean? But you lose control. So that's why I've always shown people, because even on your like when people get listings and you got your sign out in somebody's yard, whether you're at KW or at NRG, you start using their branded stuff, I always said you're stuck. People leave Century 21 and that's their only email. So I posted GoDaddy.com here. It's a place for anybody to go look up emails. They cost like 18, or domain names, $18-20 a year.
You can even do it through Google as well. I have mine set up, like I have my previous name, amyredens.com, set up through Google domains. So I pay every 5 years on that. And then I have that forwarded to my Amy Helmer at nationalrealtyguild.com, because now that I have my updated name, that's the one through Lofty, but I still have my own personal one as well. So the one that is your name at nationalrealtyguild.com is the one through Lofty, but you can also set it up as a subdomain that you purchase yourself.
Right. I've used GoDaddy for that in other businesses before, and really cheap, really good, and still is. But my big deal is my personal website at NRG is no longer in existence then if I don't belong to Lofty. Is that correct?
Well, it's never, yeah, right. I mean, all I'm looking at is, you call this a personal website. It's the template for Lofty's or Chime, whatever you're gonna call them. It's the template for somebody to search for houses. So what book?
Oh no, I wrote 3 books. And
So you had 3 things published that have this on it at National Realty Guild. Are they real estate related? Because this is a real estate search engine.
yeah, it's an inheritance real estate book, it's a divorce real estate book, and it's a seller's real estate book.
Here's
The
what I
three-
would do. I would look at your options. I understand how these books are written and published. So what I would do is if this is what you actually put on them, I mean, what do you have them in PDF?
No, I've got e-books. I've got
Yeah,
an ebook,
PDF, ebooks or whatever.
hardcover
So
book. The ebooks I might be able to get that changed. The hardcover books are hardcover books. They say
yeah,
site lynncondos.nationalrealtyguild.com, because that's who I am and that's where I am. And it's my real estate company, and it's my my book to them, especially for inheritance. I've got lots of leads in Minnesota and Florida for my inheritance book. And that is for my probate business. And
yeah, I understand how
So-
all these books are created and everything. These lists that you have. So we might
So-
talk about it privately, because unless anybody on the call is interested in 101 setting up a domain name and having a
wouldn't it
website.
still pay? I mean, I guess I'm just kind of curious. Wouldn't it still pay to go through Lofty, keep that just for the referrals that you might get, and set up a whole different system on however you're going to do it in the future?
Yeah, for
Just off
30
the
bucks
books
a
you
month.
Yeah,
have?
that's what I was thinking too.
I don't know what other system you're going to find for less. So I
oh,
don't.
I'm not concerned about getting it for less. I'm concerned about having safety in my. I don't trust Lofty. I don't trust Chime, especially after that incident. And I can't get over it. Now I'm an old lady. I should be able to get over it and move on. I haven't been able to do that, and I would just as soon not use it. So, and I've got a lot of other programs that
Lynn, I get what you're talking about. I think that's awesome that you wrote those books. So you wouldn't even have to use it, but it probably, since you have all that stuff published, if you can't get it changed, it would probably still be worth 30 bucks a month, just so those references can still continue to come to you.
Well, number one, is it 30 or is it 40?
It is 40. It's around 40. I'm gonna just again, because time is valuable here. What I'm gonna say is we're gonna take this offline, and we're gonna get this figured out for you, Lynn. I'm not gonna send Randy and Francis an email to take you off of Lofty until we 100% know where you're at. So, what I am gonna say about this conversation is I have used several different CRMs. I've used KV Core, which is one of the biggest ones that most brokerages are using. I choose Lofty over all of them because of the integration that they've had. So normally Lofty for an agent is over $300 a month if you did it on your own. So we're getting a deal by doing it through Randy. And it is one of the most complex CRMs out there. They're staying up to date with technology, but I'm going to leave it at that. What I'm going to say is there any other questions for Randy? Otherwise, again, we have to, value everybody's time. I know we have people popping off of here because they have other things they have to go do. So any other questions for Randy?
Just saying once again, thanks everyone. Bye.
I do, how come I haven't received a bill for Lofty?
They're probably waiting until you have a commission.
Oh, okay.
All right, thanks, everybody. Great
Oh,
meeting.
here's why. So we have ACH being set up this month actually, where we can pull. We have agents out in outlying MLS areas where the broker has to pay the bill, and we don't do that here. It's 100% kind of commission program. We're not getting 30% of sales, so we ask the agents to pay all their stuff when it's due. But since he's like we're growing, and there's say up in Alexandria, they want the broker to pay the bill. Well, now Wells Fargo is setting us up on ACH so we can charge agents for their monthly dues instead of waiting for commissions. So soon, if anybody has some other type of program where they're paying monthly subscription fees for stuff, we'll be able to pull the money from Wells Fargo. But in that case, we're just waiting until you have a closing.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for
welcome.
your time today, Randy. It was nice to hear the leader for a change, and I hope you come back more often.
I will come back every now and then. I got a handful of people getting in trouble I got to sit around and deal on conference calls with. So, but sometimes other people know more information than me. I love when people ask me what the price of a house is in Southeast Minnesota. I'm like, I'm your broker. I don't know. But call me if you need to. I'm going to look into this domain for you.
All right, you guys, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you, Randy, for taking the time. Next week, we have a real estate agent who is coming in from Chicago to share what she is doing in her business. And again, Chicago is a very different market than ours. So we're just trying to get as many creative ideas as we possibly can. So make sure you're tuning in for that. Make sure you check out the NRG Facebook Connect page and RSVP to that February 10th date. But thank you so much for your time. Go do something amazing today and every day, and we'll talk to you guys later.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Randy. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye. I won't be available. I'm going to call Lofty, I think, right now. So I'll talk to you guys later. Lofty.